Everybody, please meet Mike Novak. He is he's an all-around great dude, great father, great husband, great team leader, great real estate agent. He is one of the most disciplined human beings I've ever met in my life. He is a machine in all aspects of his business. Mike tracks and measures everything 10 times. Like, I'm a very number person. I'm very detail oriented. Mike is 10 times what I am. And he tracks and he measures what works and he measures what doesn't. And he sees what adjustments he can make in his processes to get more buy-in and to get better results and to get better conversion in each areas of his business. And I've never met anybody who sells as many homes as he does, who is able to get over 90% of their clients to sign exclusive agency agreements. It is something that creates more loyalty. It is something that identifies who the real motivated are. It's a process in which he can see who deserves his attention. And I don't think there's anybody better at, one, securing the appointment, and two, conducting the actual buyer consultation. So Mike, please feel free to take it away. I'm excited for everybody to learn from you.
Awesome. Thanks for the kind words, brother. I love doing life with you, Colton. You're a true brother, and it's always fun to hang out with you. John, it's nice to meet you digitally too.
Thanks for doing this, man. We're excited. This all came about, I'll say real quick. I asked Colton, hey, how are you guys getting buyer agreements signed by Zillow leads? And he's like, we're not. And I said, okay, let's get some help. And he said, I know the perfect guy. So very generous of you to make time for us, and look forward to learning from you today.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to invite you, John, and you, Colton, and everyone else on the call too. Like, if there's questions as I go, I'd love to have a two-way dialogue, so it's not just me talking at you guys for however long we're going to be on here today. That's where I think we're going to really get the most value out of it. But what I want to start with is just kind of talking about some common myths of buyer agents. Our industry has kind of a stigma when it comes to representing buyers. Like, we think that top agents only work with listings, they only represent sellers, that if you want to be a high performer, you can't represent buyers, it's too much of a time suck, and that really new agents are the people that should work with buyers. And I strongly disagree with virtually all of that. I've been an agent since the end of 2016. My wife and I started our team then, and we almost immediately split up our business. We realized that listings were very logistics driven, buyer business was very emotion driven, and also very time intensive when it came to showing houses and things like that. And it didn't make sense for us to kind of go back and forth between these two different businesses on a daily basis. So I asked her, I said, Rach, which one do you want to do? And she said, well, I want to do listings. And I said, okay, great. I'll do buyers then. And so from 2017 till today, and still today, I only work with buyers. Like, I do have some builder business that I represent as well, but my actual retail business is 100% buyer business. When I have a past client or a friend who wants to sell, my wife's the person that lists their house. I just stay in my lane, and I believe in doing one thing and doing that one thing at a super high level. So the truth to those myths is that you can sell a shitload of houses just working with buyers if you want to. And you don't have to just work with buyers, but you shouldn't be turning away from doing buyer transactions. I've sold between 78 and 85 transactions a year just with buyers alone. And that's, in my market, it's about $45 million a year. The path to doing that is really dialing in your systems and your processes. And so what I'm going to share with you guys today is just what our process is, what those SOPs look like, and then hopefully you can walk away from here and implement some of what I'm going to share with you. Okay. I'm going to share my screen, Colton, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is kind of what our proven process looks like. We don't have ISAs at this point. We've tried the ISA model several times. It has not been successful for us. So we are our own ISAs. I set my own appointments myself still. But those that have ISAs are going to have additional leverage when it comes to the appointment set part of this process. But either way, the appointment's going to get set. I'm going to share with you some framework to set quality appointments and to also try and shift those property inquiries into an actual buyer consultation. At that point, it goes one of two directions. We either schedule a buyer consultation or we schedule what we call a go-show consultation. And that's something Colton and I have talked a lot about. Like I've actually learned from him how to do go show consultations and still bring buyers a lot of value when you do those. A lot of Zillow leads, like you guys have said, like they want information about a specific property. They want to go look at a specific home. And there is a framework you can follow to convert that into a consultation. But if you suggest that framework and they're adamant they don't want to go, they don't want to do that, they just want to see this house, I don't want you to miss out on that opportunity. So you have to have some fluidity to your process and have that option be in the event the consultation is not something they're interested in. You got to get really good at suggesting it and be very articulate about what's in it for them if they're going to do it. But ultimately, some people won't agree to do it. And I don't want you to lose out on that business. So you have to have a go show process that's going to be effective at actually pulling these people into working with you and working with you exclusively. But the best path is to take them right through the buyer consultation and then move them over to what I call the buyer sign process. Once the buyer sign process kicks off, that's where my showing partners take over. I have 2 full-time showing partners. All they do is show my clients' houses. Each one of my clients gets a dedicated full-time partner. We work opposite schedules. So one of us is available 7 days a week to show our clients' houses. And I introduce that partner right at my consultation. My partner takes over and drives all the communication at that point. That moves us on to the showing home phase. Sometimes that takes a few days. More often than not, that takes a couple of months until we find the right house. We're in a super low inventory market up here. We have about 0.8 months of inventory. We had 0.2 months of inventory a year ago. So it can be a long process to find people the right home. At that point, we then move on to the pending phase. That is driven by our contract to close or transaction coordinator, and then we actually get to the closed process. So it's whatever your process is, it should be unique to you, but I think it's important that you do map out what is your proven process for your buyer business and then stick to that process once you start representing those people. So how do you set a really good quality buyer consultation? Well, the big thing is you have to understand the why behind their move. Why is this person wanting to buy a house? And so with a Zillow lead, they're often going to get on the phone and they're going to say, you're going to do the direct connection and they're going to say, yeah, I was really curious about 123 Main Street. And what I will do is shift that almost immediately. I'll say, hey, Colton, it's Mike Novak from the Novak real estate team. I got your request on 123 Main Street from Zillow. I just want to reach out to you and see if you're thinking about making a move now or in the near future. So I'm just asking the question if they're curious about making a move and if they've been thinking about it. I'm not talking about that specific house. And I'm going to just come back to the house later once they bring it up. They're typically going to say something like, yeah, I was looking at this home and I'd really like to go take a look at it. Okay, so now they're trying to push me back to the house. What am I going to do now on this call? Well, I have to grab control again. I'll say something like, okay, awesome, Colton. Let me pull up 123 Main Street. While I'm pulling that up, tell me a little bit more about what's got you thinking about making a move. So I'm coming back to that motivation again, even when they've pushed back and said, give me information about this house. And we all know it takes like a minute to pull up the MLS and get the information on the house and all those other things. And even if you're not pulling up the house, just use that as a stalling tactic to get this person talking and to connect with them at a personal level and not a transactional level. So that's the biggest thing that I can tell you to do, to take those property inquiries, turn them into a consultation and start connecting with the person at a much deeper level. When you connect with them personally, they are going to be much more open to following your process and then also just actually wanting to meet with you. So one of the big mistakes I see agents also make in this part of the process is they won't meet with somebody who's not pre-approved. And if you wait for people to get pre-approved to actually go meet them face-to-face, you're going to miss out on an absolute shitload of business. So you need to get very good at asking really great questions to see if this person could be approved and then go meet with them as fast as possible. More often than not, the person's going to work with the first agent they meet as long as they like that person, they feel connected to them, like that person can serve them at a high level. So you need to ask great questions to make sure they actually get qualified, not wait for them to get pre-approved. So some of the things that I will ask them, what is their current living situation? I'll say, Colton, tell me a little bit more about your current home. Are you renting right now, or do you own a house? And then we'll say, well, I'm renting a home right now. And I'll say, okay, awesome. Is that in a lease or is that month to month? And they'll say, well, it's in a lease. And I'll say, okay, awesome. When is your lease up? Well, it's up in October. Okay, great. And about how much are you paying per month in your rent? And what I'm trying to do there is draw payment relevancy to what they're paying now to what I know a mortgage is going to cost in my market. If there's a big gap there, I start to get concerned and I start to ask more questions. So try to bring payment relevancy when you're trying to qualify this person. Once you get deeper into the call and you've got that that good connection with them. You can ask them more personal questions, like how much money they make, like how much did you gross last year, if they have any idea on that, what their credit score could be, and things such as that. So you have to have enough connection that where when you ask financial questions, they feel comfortable giving you the answers to those questions. You've got that level of rapport built. You can't ask that in like the first 60 seconds you're on the call with them. You have to build that connection before that actually happens. But don't wait for them to get pre-approved. Connect with them at a personal level and push it away from a transaction to an actual relationship. Yeah, the details matter a lot too when you are setting a consultation or a go show. So we have like a 12-step appointment set process that we follow. If it's an ISA that had set the appointment, we had an ISA team, there'd be a handoff text introducing that agent and kind of building them up. There's an email we send that introduces them to us and it shares with them a social link. So I have a personal brand site called meetthenovaks.com. And my goal with that website is to make it very easy for people to get to know me better, right? And so I embed this link everywhere. It's in my email signature, it's in my text signature, and people always click on this link and they just start to read my bio, they read my accolades, they watch some of my videos, explain the buyer process. And this just kind of warms them up before you actually meet with them and make sure that you got some value with them. So if you're an agent on the team, you need to think how you could do this at a personal level. Like maybe you have some bomb videos that you link people to, but some way to warm that person up before the meeting occurs is going to result in a much better meeting when they actually do show up. The other thing I like to do is hand them off to the lender, and just see if, like I said, don't wait to get pre-approved, but introduce them to my preferred lender right on the initial call. And I'll just ask them a question. I'll just say, hey, Colton, have you had a chance to get pre-approved yet? And oftentimes they'll say no, and I'll say, okay, awesome. Our team has a great relationship with Premier Mortgage. They're a local lender. They're mortgage specific. That's all they do. And they've helped a lot of our best clients. I'll go ahead and connect you with them and see if they can help you with your mortgage questions. I'm not asking them if they want me to connect them. I'm telling them this is what we're going to do. I'm taking control of the process. The other thing on meeting, and I put this on the slide there, I really like to meet people as fast as possible. I try to not schedule appointments that are a week out or 2 weeks out. I want to meet them today, tomorrow, 3 days or less ideally, because the stickability of that appointment is going to be much, much better when you do that. All right, so talking about go shows versus buyer consultations, I believe the buyer consultation is always going to serve the person much, much better. It's going to properly prepare them to actually buy a home. But again, you have to get really clear on articulating to the person on the phone what's in it for them to actually do this. So I'm not a robotic script-like person when it comes to having conversations, but I have found a language pattern that works very well to explain a buyer consultation. I don't call it a strategy session. Some people do, that's totally fine. I don't call it a buyer consultation either because that sounds like you're going to the doctor to get an exam done. I just simply explain what it is. I'll say, Colton, you know what? The next step would be for us to sit down for 20 to 25 minutes, have me walk you through the home buying process from start to finish, get you up to speed on exactly what's happening in our market, and identify at a very deep, granular level exactly what we're looking for in your next house. House today at 4, tomorrow at 6. So what I'm doing is I'm telling them why we're meeting. There's 3 reasons we're meeting, right? I'm going to go back over them one more time. We're meeting so I can walk you through the home buying process. I'm setting expectations so you know what's going to happen before it occurs. That's my job as your agent, is take control of that process and make sure you're not going to have surprises. Nobody likes surprises when they're buying a house, guys. The second one is to make sure they understand what's happening in the market. A lot of people think they know what's going on in the market, but it's your job as the agent to educate them on what's actually happening. Most people don't really know. You as the agent know the facts, the data in your markets. You have to be able to articulate that to them and again, set expectations in that consultation. The third thing is really discussing what we're looking for. What are the locations you want? And what are the must-haves and the nice-to-haves? The must-haves are the non-negotiable features. If the home doesn't have that feature, or the property doesn't have it, you would not be interested in seeing it at all. It's a hard stop. And I try to get those to 3 to 5 things. The second thing is the nice to haves, where it's a bonus if it has that, but it's not a deal breaker if it doesn't. So those are the 3 big things we're going to do in a consultation, but you got to be super articulate on what's in it for them. If you build a lot of value and you demonstrate these people that meeting with you is going to bring them value and that they would be financially responsible not to meet with you, they're going to show up for that meeting. I have a show up rate of around 85% on my buyer consultations. People want to come to these, and they want to come to them because of the value that's been brought to the call, and then the warming up that occurs between me setting the appointment and them actually showing up, which is where those videos come in and actually really warming them up. So I recommend the buyer consultation, but if people are not willing to do that and you've brought this up, then pivot to the go show and just say, hey, you know what? I totally understand, Colton, you're not ready to sit down and really formally start the process. Let's do this. Let's meet at the house, see if this home could be a good fit for you, get to know you a little bit better. You can get to know me a little bit better. I can just kind of give you an overview of what to expect if you decide you want to buy a home, and just go ahead and go meet that person. We have a Go Show packet that we use. It's got a roadmap to buying a house. It's got an overview of closing costs. It's got an introduction to our lender. It's got our Zillow reviews, things like that. And then we print off list reports on the actual house we're showing them as well. But try to default to the consultation, guys, and then have the backstop of doing the Go Show if you can't get the consultation.
And Mike, when it comes to doing the consultations, do you like to do them at your office? Will you do it at a Starbucks? Where do you ideally prefer to hold them?
So that's a great question. And for me personally, like, you know how busy my schedule is, Colton. I make people come to me. Like, they come to my office. I don't go to them. They come down here and they meet with me in my conference room. But some of my agents will meet people at a Starbucks, and then they'll just go show them a house right after that. So you want to reduce the friction as much as possible in this process. And so if the person really wants to go see a home and you are getting them to agree to a consultation, it may make sense to meet them at a Starbucks. It's close to that location that you're going to show them, and then go right from Starbucks right to showing them the house right at that point. Does that answer your question, Colton?
Yeah, absolutely.
So why do agents not do consultations? Well, I think that they're okay with giving up control to the clients. Like, the client's just going to call the shots on how this process is going to go down. They aren't confident in doing a consultation. Like, they just get scared, and they don't have the process dialed in, so they don't know what to do when someone actually shows up for one. And then they're just absolutely terrified to ask for the commitment to work together. On the listing side, as an industry, we're pretty dang good at, hey, we've got a process that if I'm going to list your house, you're going to sign an agreement with me, and that's going to formalize our relationship. You have to take that same approach and that same mindset to your buyer business. I don't understand why in our industry people don't treat it the exact same way. Why would you just go to this kind of assumed representation instead of being the professional identifying exactly what you're going to do for this person? Colton, one of the things that we got out of the Cabo Mastermind we're just at is a professional services agreement. So we have a 9-page document now. I'll send you a copy of it, and identifies exactly what we're going to do for these people, right? Home search, showing them homes, our Client for Life program, everything we're going to do for them is super articulated in that document. So you have to be clear on the value you're going to bring. You have to be unafraid of asking them to meet with you, and you have to be completely clear in your value proposition on why they're going to choose to work with you, and then actually signing them. I want you to not be focused on signing that. I want you to be focused on bringing massive value to the consultation, knowing that the signing will happen automatically if you've done your job properly. So if you have teed this up right, and I'll give you some tips on how to tee it up correctly here on today's call, then the signing just happens as a byproduct of the relationship you built with this person. And if you think about this progression, we're continuing to build this relationship from the beginning when we talk to them to when we actually do a transaction with them. So it's a progression of what I call micro commitments in the relationship. The progression starts with me talking to them on the phone and them agreeing to meet with me. That is a micro commitment that starts to build trust, right? The next commitment is them actually showing up for that appointment. The next commitment from there is to sign to have me actually represent them. So there's a logical progression of trust and relationship that is built if you follow that process. Colton, is there any other reason you can think of that agents don't do consultations?
I think you pretty much nailed it on the head.
Okay, awesome. I mean, I work with a lot of other agents and coach a lot of them, and these are the things I continually see. So if you don't know how to properly set up a buyer consultation, this is the way I do it. And this doesn't mean you have to do it this way. This is just what I found works for me. And this is what my team does as well. The first 10 minutes is all about connecting with them on a personal level. So really understanding what their story is, reaffirming what I learned on the actual call with them. It's important. Like, I don't believe in taking notes when I talk to people on the phone. I want to be super present and listening to what they're saying. And my calls are recorded through Sierra Interactive. So if I ever need to go back and get those details, I'll just go back and listen to the call again, right? But I'm just listening to what they say. I'll go back and put notes when the call is over. Then I will go back and revisit those notes prior to the consultation, and I will reaffirm what they told me when I actually meet them face to face. If Colton told me that he really likes Linwood and Everett, I'm going to say, hey, Colton, we talked about Linwood and Everett being the primary place you want to be at. Is there any other locations you want? Things like that. So go back to the notes that you had when you actually had the call and reaffirm those things. Revisit their current living situation. This is your opportunity to challenge their thinking on leases. If they're in a lease until October, like I said earlier, are you comfortable asking them if they would break that lease? If I just say, hey, Colton, you know what? I understand you're in a lease until October. With that said, if the perfect home came on the market in the next 30 days, Would you still want to put an offer in on that home and possibly try to break your lease? Or are you really going to wait until the lease is actually up? What we've seen in our market is that because rents have gone up so fast, often landlords will let their tenants out with a 30-day notice, knowing they can re-rent it to somebody else for more money. Would you be willing to have that conversation with your landlord? And almost everybody says yes, but this is your opportunity to challenge that question and challenge the lease objection you're going to get. Minutes 10 through 35 is really diving into the buyer's guide. I'm going to share with you our buyer's guide today. I wrote it myself. I don't think that you should just go online and Google a buyer's guide and then copy that shit and start using that as your guide. I think that you need to invest the time to have your proven process, your value proposition put into an articulated, formalized book that you're then going to go over with people. My guide is 37 pages long, but I only go over about 7 key pages with people. I don't go through the entire thing because we'd be there for 2 or 3 hours and it would be an information overload. But people do take the book with them when we're done, and they often will revisit the pages in that book as we go through this journey together. And then minutes 35 through 40 is just really wrapping it up, recapping the next steps, and then signing the client. So not every consultation goes this way, and some of them, will be quicker. Some of them will be longer as well. It really depends on their personality type. If you get a high D, it may be like a 20-minute buyer consultation because they just want the facts. They want to know exactly what the plan is. They're going to make a quick decision to work with you, sign them, and get out of there and get to work. You get a high I in there that wants to talk for forever. You could be in there for an hour and a half hearing all about their life story before that they actually agree to work with you. So you just have to kind of mirror and match that person a little bit. And again, have some flexibility to your process. I schedule my buyer consultations on 2-hour intervals. So I will meet with people at 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 6 o'clock. I do not do consultations in the mornings. I do 2 on Saturdays. I do 10 and noon, but I give myself those breaks in between in case the consultation goes long. And also so I have time to go back in the CRM and put everything in there that when it's still fresh in my head before I move on to the next person. Personally, I've done as many as 5 consultations in a day, and I found that after 3, I want to shoot myself in the head. Like, it's just too much information. I'm peopled out at that point. So I hard stop myself at 3 consultations at this point per day. But some people will go harder, and that I have mad respect for. So let's dive into the buyer's guide. Some of the key pages. This is just about us. I don't spend a lot of time talking about me because I think it's a waste of time, but I'll just say, hey, Colton, you probably know this by now, but my name is Mike Novak. This is a picture of me when I was 80 pounds smaller. I'm one of the top ranked agents in our area. I've got 3 full-time showing partners, and one of my partners will be assigned directly to work with you. Her name is Destiny. There's 2 of us, so you've got access to one of us 7 days a week for you to go look at homes. But I don't spend a ton of time on this page. I just, if I've done this right, they have researched me before we got to this table together, and they already know they want to work with me. Like, I'll often have people say, hey, I watched your market report video, or I watched your overview of buying a home, whatever it is. Like, those videos really warm them up. And I always tell people, watching a video is the next best thing to meeting with me face to face. So really think about your pre-appointment process, like I said earlier, making sure you're warming these people up and bring them value before they meet with you. Then this is really the meat and the potatoes of the actual buyer consultation itself. I break the process down into a 4-phase approach. The first phase is the preparation phase. That's what we're doing today, getting a game plan together, making sure we understand exactly what you're looking for. The second phase is the home search phase. We're actively looking at properties. The third phase is the offering phase, putting offers in on homes. And the fourth and final phase is what I call contract to close. That's what happens from when you get your offer accepted to when you get keys in possession of the home. And then I will go through each and every one of these steps together. Like in a very deep level. I spend about 15 minutes on this page alone. This is where I spend most of my time in the consultation. And it's important in phase 1. I'll just kind of go through it with you guys as if you're my buyer, right? And I'm not going to go through all 4 phases, but I just want to talk about phase 1 today because that's the part that involves the buyer agreement, okay? So the first step, Colton, is just to sit down with me as your agent and get to know you better and make sure I understand what your goals are, exactly what you're looking for, and making sure I'm going to be a good fit to help you and that we're going to be a good fit to work together. I'm going to then review the home buying process with you, which is what we're doing right now, Colton, to make sure you know exactly what to expect with buying a home. Buying a home is a huge financial decision, and it's a process that rewards planning and preparation. So it's really important we're taking the time to get a solid game plan together before we start running around looking at properties. The next step, Colton, is to identify the must-haves and locations. Like I said earlier, the must-haves are the non-negotiable features the property must have, otherwise you wouldn't want to go look at it. So then we'll stop there and we'll talk about the must-haves for probably 5 minutes. And oftentimes, if it's a couple, they will be on the same page on 1 or 2 must-haves, and then we'll go back and forth on the other ones where, like, maybe the husband wants something and the wife wants something totally different. And that's where we kind of play mediator a little bit and try to find the commonalities that are going to make both of them happy. The next step from there, Colton, is to sign a buyer agency agreement. That makes me officially your real estate agent. I will go over that with you today. That is a cancelable agreement, Colton. So if at any point I feel like you're not the right client to work with me, or you feel like I'm not the right agent to work with you, either one of us can rip it up and go find somebody else to work with. And I say it that way because I will never enforce an agency agreement on somebody. I have them sign it really just for the connection and the trust that we're going to move forward together. I'm not ever going to go sue somebody for using a different agent. If they think about a different agent's going to do them better, go use that agent by all means. So I just name it right there. And in our MLS, the buyer agreement is cancelable. If it's not in yours, then you got to decide if that's something you're okay with or not. But I believe in win-wins, guys. Like if this is not a win for you as the client, it's not a win for me as the agent, please go find somebody else. And I feel the exact same way as far as the client's win represents as well. And then getting pre-approved for your mortgage, I'll connect you with a preferred lender at the end of today's meeting and see if they could be a good fit to help you understand exactly what your mortgage options look like. And then this is important, guys. At the end of phase one, I'll say, so do you have any questions on phase one? And this is where, if you're going to get any objections to signing, you want to handle them right here. And sometimes you'll get them. They'll say, well, why would I want to sign an agency agreement to work with you? And I said, well, Colton, I totally understand wanting to stay flexible on who you get to work with. However, going through this process, we're going to invest dozens of hours into helping you find a home. Is it fair, Colton, that at the end of that process, if we've successfully helped you find the home of your dreams, that we get paid for all that time we've invested? And then just shut up. And you've now cornered them to where they're going to, of course, agree with you, right? If you haven't read Split the Difference, go read it, right? That anchoring word is fair. Is it fair that we're paid at the end of this for helping you having get your home? We don't make a dime until we successfully get your house. But if you don't ask them if they have questions on phase one, guys, you're setting yourself up for objections later. Handle them right here, right now. Jump right into the biggest point of friction. Next, buyer agents versus listing agents. So again, this is unique to your team. My team, we do not do dual agency, and I name this to people. We're not going to represent buyers and sellers at the same time. We do that to avoid a conflict of interest. I explained to them that the listing agent's job is to represent the seller in all negotiations, do the marketing on the property, things like that. The buyer agent's job is to get the buyer through all the steps I just went over with you, and then represent the buyer in negotiations. And then I'll just say, hey, we don't represent the buyer and the seller at the same time. It is legal to do that in our state. We just choose not to do it because we can't really give either party great advice when we're advising both of you at the same time. And then I'll ask them to please not talk to the listing agent direct. Please don't go to open houses, go to private showings with us. Any questions you have, send them directly to me. Anything you say to the listing agent, they're going to use against us in negotiations. So if you go to an open house and tell the listing agent you absolutely love this home, you have to do anything to get it, and then we want to put an offer below those price, that's going to be a problem, right? So I'll use the example of not talking to the listing agent because it's like talking to a prosecutor when you need a defense attorney. I'm your defense attorney. Please don't talk to the prosecutor direct. And then people laugh and they're like, okay, that makes total sense. I won't talk to you, right? Good. I talk about our lender. We use Premier Mortgage, which is a mortgage-specific lender. They're in our own office building, and they're great to work with. I then talk about closing costs, just what to expect. I go over the seller side, and I mention excise tax, which is like a sales tax in Washington State. Real estate commissions, I let them know, hey, you don't pay us any commissions. The seller pays all of our brokerage's commissions, so we're free for you on that. You're going to pay half the escrow fee, the seller pays the other half, the owner's title insurance policy, and prorated dues and taxes. On the buy side, lender fees, mostly appraisal, credit reporting fees, prepaid taxes, prepaid insurance, all those types of things. Budget 1.5% to 2%, Mr. Buyer, on your closing costs. And oftentimes people have heard of what closing costs are, but they don't understand it at a deep level. And this just gives them a much better context on what it is. If you don't take the time to explain this, what I've experienced is that when it gets time to offer, people are going to say, well, I want to offer X price, but I want them to pay the closing costs. And that's a very blanket statement. It's like, okay, what do you mean by pay the closing costs? Because they're already paying about 8% of closing costs. Do you want them to pay your side of the closing costs as well? So you have to take the time to explain it to them. Also talk about our website a little bit and the value of using it. And then offer variables. Colton, I know that you got super deep on this when your market was ultra competitive like a year and a half ago. Like, what is going to make your offer stand out among other offers, will offer situation? And we have just seen in our market, I don't know if you're seeing it down there yet, but I would assume you probably are, that multiple offers are back right now. Like, the inventory has gotten super low, escalations are happening again. We had 7 offers on one of our listings the other day. And so it's important your buyer understands what will make their offer come across as strong or be perceived as weak in the eyes of the seller. So I go through all these things, earnest money being The higher the better. 1 to 3% is standard in our market. 3% if it's competitive. The financing type, the down payment, the closing date, the possession terms, contract contingencies, inspection strategy. We have something called an information verification period, which is basically a 10-day get out of jail free clause in our contracts. The buyer letter to seller, the highlight letter is just a cover letter for their offer from me to the listing agent, summarizing in 1 page why they should take the offer. I'll tell them that we're going to get the pre-approval letter adjusted to the amount we're offering on the home, not the amount they're pre-approved for, and then getting the lender actually call the listing agent direct as well. Then we get down to the next steps. So the next step, Mr. Colton, is to decide to work together. Would you like me to represent you and help you find a home? Don't say anything else. Just literally ask that question and shut your mouth. Agents get super nervous when it comes down to actually closing somebody. Just ask it in that way. If you do that, and then you just let them kind of sit there and marinate in the silence for a second, they're gonna say, yeah, of course, sounds good, right? That is literally the key to getting these things signed. Just ask them if they want to move forward with you. Would you like me to represent you and help you find a home? Okay, awesome. Got a couple disclosures to have you sign, and then we'll help you get pre-approved and start touring homes with you right away. So this is a key page in your buyer's guide. It's important that your buyer's guide has a natural progression to it from the process to actually committing to working together. If you don't have a page like this, then there's just an awkward lack of closing at the end, okay? Post-consultation process. So it is important that you follow through with what you promised to do in the consultation. So right after we're done with the consultation, we start a whole bunch of things. We will go in there, we will tag them as an A client. We have an A client action plan, which has about 15 different things on there. We'll set up the instant property alerts for them in Sierra Interactive. We'll adjust the search. We'll send them an email kind of outlining the next step by step again with them and all of our contact information. And we'll have a copy of the documents that they signed as well. But it's really important that you have a great post-consultation process that makes them feel like they're actually getting what you promised them in the consultation. So, Colton, what questions do you guys have about this?
I got some questions for you. Okay, so I think our biggest challenge, Mike, is on the phones, right? We've just been doing go shows. That's our default. We just, okay, when do you want to see the house? 3 o'clock, great, we'll see you there. Your positioning is much better because it's leading, the appointment is a more natural outcome and signing is a more natural outcome. So if it's okay, let's run through the phone call a little bit more. So someone calls and they just want to see 123 Main Street. Your intro there was, hey, are you, give me the language again real quick. Are you looking to make a move in the next couple of months? Something to that effect, right?
Yeah, let's just role play it real quick, John. So, hey, John, it's Mike Novak from the Novak real estate team. I just got your request for some more information on 123 Main Street off of Zillow. I wanted to reach out to you and see if you're thinking about making a move now or in the near future.
Yeah, we're thinking about making a move. Is there a way we could see that house today at 3?
Yeah, awesome. Let me go ahead and pull that up, John. And while I'm pulling that home up, tell me a little bit more about what's got you guys wanting to make a move.
Well, I mean, I just like this house because, it's got the right bedrooms over in a neighborhood I really like. So it seemed like it'd be worth checking out.
Okay, so you really like that neighborhood quite a bit. And you said you like the bedrooms as well?
Yeah, it's kind of a nice fit. I've always wanted to be in that area, yeah.
Okay, awesome. And John, have you just been looking at homes online so far, or what have you been doing to prepare yourself to make a move?
Yeah, just looking online. We're just kind of getting started.
Okay, awesome. And are you renting a home right now, John, or do you own a house?
Yeah, we rent.
You rent. Okay, great. And is it in that same area that you're looking to buy?
No, we're across town in the hood, man. It's not even safe where we live. So
okay, so you're trying to upgrade your surroundings in your neighborhood then, John, right?
Yeah, just trying not to get stabbed on the way to school, No.
That's reasonable enough to me. So, all right, John. I've got the home pulled up here. It looks like a great listing. Did you have any specific questions on that property, John, or were you just kind of wanting to go take a peek at it?
No, it looks good online. It'd be great to go see it.
Okay, awesome. So, John, what we will typically do is actually sit down with our clients for about 15 to 20 minutes to really walk you through the home buying process from start to finish to make sure you know what to expect with buying a home, and then also get you up to speed on what's happening in our market and do a deep dive in exactly what you're looking for in a home, just in case this one isn't the right one for you. So there's actually a Starbucks really close to this house. Let's go ahead and meet at that Starbucks, and then right after that, I'll go out and show you the home house today at 2.
All right, so Jim runs.
It's not rocket science, right?
No, I love it. It's like we need to be reminded more than we be instructed. But I think, okay, so let me pause here. So you got 2 different scenarios. One is the person says, okay. They're like, yeah, great. Let me run through a couple different objections and you can walk me through these. One would be, oh yeah, no, I'm renting now, but I've bought a few houses, so I'm pretty familiar with the process. I just really want to see the house.
Okay, awesome. When's the last time you bought a home, John?
Oh, it's probably 3-4 years ago.
Okay, great. You know, the market has changed a lot in the last 3 or 4 years. So what worked then is very different now. So I still think it would be in your best interest to slow things down just a little bit here, John, and make sure you really understand exactly what's happening in this market and that we've identified what we're looking for before we start running around looking at houses. You know, John, buying a home is a huge financial decision, and it's really one of those processes that rewards planning and preparation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to make you feel irresponsible for not planning.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, let me run through a few more. So let's say it's, hey, you know what? I don't know how, like, I'm just kind of poking around here. I just kind of want to see the house. It looks like it might be interesting, but I'm not sure I'm going to move. You know, I don't want to waste a whole lot of time. If this house works, great, but if not, you know, I don't know that a whole meeting is necessary. You know.
Yeah, hey, John, you know, that makes total sense. I appreciate you looking out for my time as well. Let's talk a little bit more about what you liked about this home in particular, just so I can better understand if this one's not the right one, if others might come up that could be a good fit for you. So what did you really love about this home, John?
You know, it's the neighborhood's fantastic. It's the right size, you know, for my family, what we're looking for.
Okay, so if we went out and looked at this home, John, and this wasn't the right house for you, but then other homes came on that had those same features, would you be interested in still look at those?
Yeah, I mean, if it was something really similar, yeah, sure.
Okay, awesome. So you'd still want to go take a look at them then?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I still think it would make sense then, John, to sit down for 15 to 20 minutes just to make sure that you know what to expect with buying a home, whether if it's this one or one, you know, a couple months from now. There's no pressure on when you buy a home, John. I could care less if you buy a home today or 6 months from now. I just care that when you do buy a home, you buy it with me. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. So now let's say, what circumstances do you roll over on? Are you I'm
about to lose the call when they're like, no, dude, I just want to go see that. Like, you have to listen for their tone shift where they're getting agitated because I've come back 2 or 3 times on their objections and they're pissed that I keep flipping it back around on them. Now I'm going to pivot. You know, John, hey, let's do this. Let's just go ahead and start off with taking a peek at this house together and getting to know each other a little bit more. Let's go ahead and meet at the house today at 2:00 and we'll just kind of start off there.
Okay. And by the way, everybody, especially people on my team, because I know you're good at coming up with these objections. You're taking these leads every day. So pop them in the questions. If you have specific objections, now's the time to do it.
I've heard them all because we spend like 30 grand on Zillow a month.
Yeah, you've done a lot of these. So
these Zillow calls are the easiest calls in the world because these people are like ready to go bottom of funnel leads. Very different than like a pay-per-click lead where they're just looking around at houses. And a lot of them are truly just looking and they're like 18 months away from buying a house, you know?
Yeah. And Chris is mentioning, he's on my team, that our script is totally obviously very different from this. But what I'm learning is that, you know, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat here. So I want to learn from what Mike's doing. It's obviously working better than what we're doing. So let's say it's a go and show. So you roll over, okay, I'm going to go to the house. How are you pivoting that go and show from a showing to a meeting? What I will do is I have my go show packet with me. And once we've toured the home, like as we're touring the home, I'm close, but I'm not too close to them on that tour. Like I'm not hovering over them. I think Colton, you've called it like I'm not a hover parent or something like that when you're showing the house. I do that same thing. I just I stay within an arm's length of them if they need me, if they have questions about the property. But as we're going, I'm asking them questions about their move. You know, tell me a little bit more about your current living situation. Tell me a little bit more about what you're really looking for in a home. Tell me a little bit more about the neighborhoods that you're interested in. So all those things that we talk about in a consultation, I'm actually having the exact same conversation with them as we're going through the house. So I'm not doing it face-to-face in a boardroom like a buyer consultation, but we're achieving the exact same thing. And then at the end of the consultation, or at the end of the showing rather, there's this kind of like natural time to debrief the home, right? It's sometimes at the car, sometimes at the kitchen of the house, where you're like, okay, you know, John, on a scale of 1 to 10, tell me about, you know, how close is this to being a 10 for you on a home? 1 being a cardboard box in a ghetto neighborhood, and 10 being your dream home. And people will laugh and they'll say, well, it's probably a 7. And I'll say, okay, awesome. What would it take to make it a 10 for you? And then they'll start kind of explaining that stuff.
And because we know the home we show them the first time is often not going to be the home that they purchase. So at that point, I will pull out my Go Show packet. I'll just kind of give them an overview of buying a home. I have a roadmap page in there. It's a quicker version of that, but it kind of gives them just kind of a process overview. And then I just go ahead and start treating them like they're an A client. I'll just say, okay, John, the next steps from here, I'm going to go ahead and set up a group chat with my showing partner, Nancy, and myself, and both of you guys as well, that we've got 7 to 8 access to one of us to go see homes. I'm also going to connect you with Premier Mortgage so you can start getting your mortgage, pre-approved and figure out what your payment options look like there. I'm also going to set you up on our team's website. Our team has invested a lot of money into having a website just for our clients that's updated every 15 minutes. You're going to get houses sent to you a lot faster than Zillow or Realtor.com, and we can show you those homes right away. And so I'm just basically treating them like an A client and an assumptive close, even though they're not signing anything. And then I just put their agency agreement in the first offer we write.
Okay, so those people you're not trying to set another meeting for. You're just
I'm just achieving it. Same exact thing at the appointment. It's just now it's a home tour weaved into a buyer consultation, and there's no signing of it. Like, it's really awkward to have them sign a buyer agency agreement at a Go Show. That's what I've seen. You know what I mean? But if you just treat them like an A client and you start sending them houses and you give them 7 day a week white glove showing access, that's what they all want, right? And they're going to use you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. At the meeting, and again, if you guys have questions, pop them in the chat. So objections, whatever, right? Okay, here's one. I'll come back to that. So pop them in the chat, but let's go through a common objections at the meeting to signing the document, right? So what objections do you see most often, and how are you handling those?
So I usually don't get any objections to it, to be totally honest with you. Every now and then somebody will ask me if I will, rebate them back some of my commission. And I will just explain to them, in our market, the only people that rebate back commissions are really desperate agents, which tend to be very inexperienced. Buying a home is a really, really big financial decision, and it could potentially cost you tens of thousands of dollars if you make a mistake. So would it really be worth having an inexperienced agent represent you on such a large financial decision just to get a little bit of money back? And I'll just frame it like that. And they just say, no, of course. Okay,
we got some really good questions in here. Why sign an agreement? So what's for you? So for us, the reason I keep pushing my team to get these, there's 2 reasons. One is having them sign an agreement creates some loyalty. It allows you to know that they have some kind of commitment to you. Sitting down to an appointment, like you're explaining, it creates a lot of connection, creates a lot of loyalty, and also helps them. It shows them the process. But the second thing is we can get our fee. We're seeing now more commonly listing agents offering $14 on a co-broke, or $20, whatever, $50, $100, 1%, whatever. So if we have a buyer agreement signed, now we can collect our fee. We can negotiate to have the seller pay some of that as a closing cost concession. For you, is any of this about fee and about making sure that you can show open or let's say for sale by owners or properties that are only offering a 1% co-broke? Do you do any of that in there, or is this more just about creating loyalty with the buyer?
It's really loyalty, but I mean, some of that depends on how your MLS is set up. So in our MLS, if the co-broke is 2% or 2.5%, I can still ask for 3% if I have a signed buyer agency agreement. And so I just tell people in the consultation when they're signing the agreement, it says 3%. I go over the agreement with them, John. I just say, hey, you know what? We charge 3% to represent a buyer. That's the standard commission in our market. If for some reason the seller's not offering a 3% commission, which happens sometimes, you're giving me permission to go back and fight for them to actually pay our brokerage's full commission. And what I like, when the market was really competitive, a lot of it was at 2.5%, and I would actually put my increments on my escalations at 1%, so we could find a win-win. I would explain to my clients, and so that would be 0.5% to get the commission up to 3%, and then another 0.5% to differentiate our offer from the next highest. Does that make sense?
Say it again. I don't follow that part.
So in escalations, right, I would use 1% increments, knowing that the commissions were often 2.5%. So out of that 1% increment, let's just say it's a $500,000 home and we're going up in $5,000 increments, not to exceed whatever the cap is going to be. If the commission is 2.5%, then 1/2 of that percent is coming to me as the agent. The seller is giving me that. They're changing the commission structure to do so.
Got it.
The other 0.5% is literally just the degree of separation between our offer and the next highest. So that's how we structure the win-win there. I probably did that 30 or 40 times when escalations were crazy. And even with 10 or 15 offers on houses, was still pushing the commissions up to 3%. And so you have to be transparent with your client what you're doing.
when you do that, you're asking you're communicating to the listing agent. Do you guys, I don't know if you put them in your offers in your state, what the commission is, or is there like an email that you send that says, hey, listen, you're only offering 2 or 2.5. Mine's going to be 3. Our offer is going to come over. Where is that happening in the paperwork?
There's a spot in the offer. We do include the buyer agency agreement with the offer as well. But I will usually get on the phone voice to voice with the agent and explain to them very clearly what I'm doing, because I need them to explain to their clients. So if they understand it, then they can explain it. If they don't understand it, I'm not going to get it. So I have to make sure that they clearly understand exactly what I've done and that it's a win-win. Their client is still going to net 0.5% more than the next highest offer, and I'm going to win because you're going to pay the full commission.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You're in Washington, where this is on the contracts. Like the buyer fee is on your purchase contract, right? Buyer agent. Yeah, that's coming, by the way. Everybody else who's in other states, you got to get good at this, because it's already happening in Washington, and I guarantee it's coming to California and Arizona and everywhere else too. So you're going to have to get good at this.
I don't have a problem with it. I like the transparency of it. Like, everyone knows what's in the listing and what we're asking for, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So another good objection here was, yeah, listen, I'll work with whatever agent brings me the best house. You know, like if you bring me a great house, awesome. I'll use you. If someone else finds me a better house, I'll use that one.
Okay, awesome, John. So like I said earlier, you know, we're going to invest dozens of hours into helping you find a home. This is sometimes a very long process. It takes a few months to find the right house. Is it fair, John, to ask that at the end of the day, if we find you that right home, that we do get paid to represent you?
Yeah, that's fair. Sure.
Okay, so all this agreement is saying is that I can be your agent, send you houses, and that if we find you the home, that we're going to get paid for it. Do you have any objection to signing that agreement? I can actually represent you.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I sign this, does that mean if some other agent brings me another deal, I still have to pay you, or I have to use you, or no?
So, I mean, it is a cancelable agreement. So if at some point you decided you didn't want to work together, like if I was not living up to your expectations and doing what I say I'm going to do, you could go find a different agent. Just call me and say, Mike, I want to go with a different agent. But I can assure you, John, that I did not get to where I'm at today and become the top agent in our market representing buyers by not providing an amazing level of service. I'm going to send you homes way faster than you will find them, and way faster than any other agent's going to find them. Because I have the leverage of a showing partner, we're going to be able to show you that home as fast as you're able to get out there as well, 7 days a week. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And someone's hard knows about that. I simply will tell them to fuck off and not represent them.
Right. I figured at some point it got there.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to pour in dozens of hours of time or my partner's time and then not get paid. It's just a waste of time. There's too many good people out there.
Yeah. Mike, and that goes into what Bill's question was. Is there ever a circumstance where you won't make them sign and that you would continue to work with them? I think that answers your question.
Yeah, it's there's just too many good people out there, guys. Like, if you're not coachable and if you're not savvy, why would I want to work with you?
Well, in all reality, Mike, they don't really have anybody working for them at that point if they're working with everybody. And that's what they don't understand.
Get on your head. I didn't even know you're in here.
I like this. Garrett asked, what percentage are on Zoom? So we personally, we get a lot of out-of-state folks. So we get a lot of Zooms. Those aren't always Zillow leads. A lot of those times, those are coming from different channels. But do you do any of these on Zoom with out-of-state folks?
I only do them on out-of-state people. Like, a litmus test to me is the person willing to come to me to do a consultation? If they're not, I know they're not that motivated. You know what I mean? So if they're in my markets, if they're close to me and they're not willing to come in, that's a huge red flag.
And what's your conversion rate on Zillow leads? Do you know?
What's our what?
Conversion rate on Zillow leads.
That's about 7%.
So high. I mean, 5% is good. So, because when I hear you say what you just said, which is basically you're not going to work with everybody, that would make me think, oh, maybe his conversion rate's low. But yours is actually very high. 7 is spectacular. So you're doing this and converting at a high level, which proves it's possible. That's fantastic.
And Mike, on this, do you always use the same format with the consult, or do you customize them to address their specific issues and your value propositions? It's a question that Ryan just asked.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do customize it. Like, if the person's got specific concerns, I want to make sure I address those. If they've got some uniqueness to their situation, I want to make sure we have time to talk through those things as well. So it is customizable. I've got my goals to make sure we cover those big 3 things we talked about. But from there, it needs to go the direction that's going to best serve the person. And so it could go a whole multitude of directions at that point.
What this accomplishes, and it's what we stress on our team all the time, is if we are always trying to, like, people don't like being called the door opener, but yet 99% of agents are showing up looking like Vanna White every single showing. Here's the kitchen, here's the bath, here's this. Okay, cool. You did nothing to magnify yourself. You did nothing to make it so you're not having to chase them. Like what this does, and we even had an agent who's on this call, and I love her to death. She admitted, she's like, hey, I finally asked for a buyer consultation. And the client was so excited. And the client was so happy because like, no, nobody sat me down to walk me through what this process looks like. And it's like so many different agents are waiting to use the process and the lessons taught by the market to educate their clients. And I think it's a really reckless, irresponsible way to represent people. It's like their clients need to understand what the market conditions are. Your clients need to understand, especially back when we were in the crazy market that we were in, and now we're starting to go into a crazy market again. But it's like, if your client was just finding out for the very first time when they're putting pen to paper that homes were selling for 12% on average over ask price, you as an agent failed them if that's the first time that you've ever planted that seed to prepare them for what's to come. And it's not only are we making our jobs more difficult as the agent, because we failed to educate and we failed to prepare, now we're going to have a client finally proactively prepare them. And most of those clients aren't going to be willing to take the steps that they need to take to be successful. So it is just such an important step for you separating yourself. So you're not being the Vanna White and just showing the property, and that you're actually there to advise and consult to ensure that they're prepared to make the best possible move.
And, you know, in our market, most people don't do this, which is why I wanted to start doing it. Like I wanted to have a different process. I didn't want to just be a door opener. I wanted to make sure people felt fully prepared and like they had the right planning in place to actually make a move successfully. And I will tell you guys that most often at the end of the consultation, the person, I asked them, you know, was that helpful? Was it helpful to kind of see how all these pieces fit together so you know exactly what to expect? They're like, yes, this took my stress level down so far from where it was at when I walked in here. Thank you for spending the time with me today. So you're making a huge investment of time and just a big deposit of good faith into that relationship by doing that. And people are going to be grateful for that if you do it right.
Okay, a couple more good questions. Thank you again for your generosity of time here. Super helpful. It sounds like you have a pretty high rate of people viewing your pre-sale material. So I would call what you do from when you hang up till when they show up in your office pre-selling. You're sending them the videos and the website and the whatever. How are you getting a high rate of viewership there? Are you communicating to them somehow why this is valuable for them to bother watching your video or checking out your website? How are you making them see that it's worth spending that time?
I don't like hard push it at all. I've just found that people are really naturally curious about who they're going to meet. Like they want to do research on the person. And there's one of two things that you can do. You can either let them go do the research on their own, or you can make it super freaking easy for them and send them what you want them to find. And that's why I do it that way. Like it's most often it's the text I send them after the appointment, just giving them my cell phone number. So they've got access to me since we just got connected through Zillow. And they always tell me, like, I went onto your website and checked you out. I really liked that, you had a picture of your family on there. I like that you used to be a real estate developer and, building and construction, and that you're the top agent, like all these other things. And it's like that it shows me, I've heard from so many people about things that are in my bio just from literally sending them that one link.
Okay. All right. Some great more questions here. When you meet at your office, do you go show homes the same day typically?
Yeah, great. I mean, I won't go show them, but I'll sign them, and then my partner will immediately run out, go show them the houses, and take over right from there. I jump back in when it's time to negotiate the deal. So when the person has found a home they want to offer on, I will jump in and coach the client on exactly what to do to win this house. I will do all the negotiating with the other agent. I have someone on my team, my transaction coordinator, who writes my offers for me, but I give her all the bullet points to write it.
So when you book the appointment, are you letting them know, okay, great, we'll have this appointment, and then afterwards, pencil in an hour, half hour, whatever, we'll go take a look at that house you wanted to see, and then some other properties, something like that?
Yeah, I don't bring it up. If they want to do it, then I will. But more often than not, like once we've gone into connecting at a personal level and articulating a buyer consultation, now that's all they're thinking about. They're not really thinking about the house they inquired on. If they are, then we'll absolutely go show them the house right after the meeting.
You're shifting the conversation from 123 Main Street to let's figure out how to buy a house.
Yeah, let's really game plan this together. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So since you do these meetings and don't have an SA, how are you handling calls when you're in the meeting? Zillow phone rings, you got all these meetings. Who's answering those calls?
So we have 11 agents on our team. I think there's 7 that are Zillow qualified to be in there. We have different parameters to get Zillow leads in our team. And so our pickup rate is, I think it's like 92% or something like that. So we're pretty good at getting somebody else to pick up the phone. And it's pretty rare that all of us are in meetings at the exact same time. If we are, then we're shit out of luck.
Okay. Next question, if the client is 3 to 6 months out, if they're long-term, are you still doing a consult right away?
Yeah, just because 3 to 6 months or a year out or whatever they tell you, like it's usually an objection. You know what I mean? Like they're saying that they don't have enough information to tell you what their real time frame is. And so I'm going to still meet with that person, get to know them better, and really at that consultation, I'll focus and I'll say, hey, John, you know what? You told me that you really don't want to buy a home for another 6 months. Let's unpack that a little bit more. Tell me about what's keeping you from wanting to buy a home right now. And like I'll challenge the thinking on timing. I want you that gives me a chance to explain the market in the face-to-face kind of meeting, you know, which is going to be a lot more detailed than just over the phone. And I can explain to them why buying now would be better for them than buying 6 months from now. You know?
For clients that, because we've experienced this, and it's honestly not as much of an issue, so I'm glad this question was asked. When you have a past client that you represented, you were the agent showing them properties, and now you've introduced a showing partner, a production partner, and now they are going to be the ones to go show homes. How do you pivot in that change of relationship and that change of process?
So with past clients, like they've already done consultations with me, so I don't typically do another one with them. What I will do is I will get on the phone with them, or I'll go meet with them face to face and grab coffee and just like really understand what they're trying to accomplish and make sure I understand what the criteria is and everything else. And then I'll just literally do the exact same thing. I'll just say, you know, Colton, awesome. I'm excited to work with you again. It was so much fun to help you find a house before. I'm going to go ahead and start a group chat with Destiny, my full-time showing partner, that we've got 7-day-a-week showing access from one of the two of us. But with my past clients, I will show up more often in the showings. Like you said, Colton, you know, I track a lot of data, and on our team, on my micro team in particular, I'll average about 11.7 homes shown per closing. And so if I'm going to have 12 homes shown to a past client, I'll show up for 1 or 2 of those when I think it'd be cool to just see them face to face. Just, hey, surprise, Mike's going to show you the house today. You know?
Yeah, that's what I've done. I've shown up on the first appointment, and then I'll show up at the inspection to give them a high five, and then I leave.
Yep, exactly. If you follow like the way I've broken this down, I invest about 3 hours per closing per client, and my average commission is about $20,000 in my market. So it's a really good return on your time, but it must have really defined processes, and you have to surround yourself with leverage to do that.
Another question, can you explain how you can negotiate your commission? What leverage do you have if your client has already decided that they want the house? It's not like you're pulling out if you don't get your fee.
So I'm never going to lose my client a house because of my commission. Like that's bad business in my opinion. So if the only thing in the way of getting them the house is just a negotiation on commissions, I'll sell them the house at 2.5%. You know, it just is what it is. I'm going to fight every step of the way, but I'm not going to get in the way of my clients achieving their dream of getting the house.
Yeah. Our process is ask for the money from the listing agent. Oftentimes they'll just say yes. Like they just take it out of their pocket and put it into yours. If they won't do that, then we'll ask for a closing cost concession, you know, so try to get the fee as a closing cost concession out of the deal, you know.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
And then if you can't get it, you can't get it. That's the same policy for us. We'll just roll over if we have to. So
yeah, I mean, your client needs to come first. You know what I mean, and know that it's going to come back to you in spades from referrals, from them buying again with you, and things like that.
Someone asking if you have a TC fee, admin fee, transaction fee, anything like that, or is it just 3%, or how do you do it?
It's funny that's asked because in Cabo, this was just talked about for like 2 hours, and our team's been very resistant to what we call a professional services fee. I fought tooth and nail to not do this for 5 years, and I finally caved in Cabo, and so we did roll out a $495 professional services fee. Many thanks to Ed Stroud, who's on the call, for pushing me to do it. I've signed, I think, 9 buyers since coming back from Cabo, and they've all agreed to it without pushing back one bit. On the closing cost page, I just added it on there and explained it to them.
I personally have found it easier to get people to sign percentages than numbers. So like if we're in San Diego, our average is 2.5%. You will have an easier time, in my opinion, signing 3% buyer VIP agreements than 2.5% plus 595. And the half point is actually more money. So I would start with a percentage, get good at this. And then if you want to try to tack on a fee, great. You know, Mike's done this a lot. He's good at this. I would not start with a fee unless you figured out how to do this well, or you have a good team leader who's teaching you how to do this, because that can be a little tougher.
It's taken me 5 years to get to this point where I feel like it's the right thing to do that for a business. And the business is getting, like, the margins are getting thin in real estate right now, or at least they were last year. And so we're looking at everything, you know?
Yeah, right. Any other questions, Colton? Anybody else?
No, out of respect for everybody's time, I know we just hit the 12 o'clock mark. Mike, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to do this. You guys can see in how he articulates and what his presentation is. It's not the first time he's recited this. And I've now heard him do it multiple times, and it's the exact same process every single time. And dude, you're just a true asset. You're a brother, and thank you so much for taking the time to help everybody.
Yeah, well done. Round of applause. Thank you. Yeah. So those of you guys who are asking for different resources, you wanted a recording, whatever, all that stuff, whoever invited you, I know I invited some people, Colton invited some people, just reach out to whoever invited you, however you got here, whatever email led you here today, reply back to that if there's a specific resource you want. And then we can kind of walk you through getting those resources, and we can collaborate with Mike to get that. No need to bother him. Colton and I can handle it.
Colton, if you need anything, hit me up. Okay?
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.